What's going on, everyone? Just give me a minute here, as usual, to set up the stream on my end. Excuse me. All right. So, yeah, this is gonna be a new load order. I wouldn't call it a brand new load order. So what I did was, I deleted every mod in my load order, and just rebuilt a new one. Threw in a lot of mods that I was curious about, that I wanted to try, mods that I have tried that I just didn't feel fit in my previous load order, and I wanted to take a different approach with this load order. My previous load orders were very visual heavy. There weren't a lot of mods that changed gameplay, or, I mean, I had a lot of gameplay mods, but a lot of them were just, you know, animations, sword animations, character movement animations, and things like that. So I wanted to do something that still kept a lot of the visual enhancements that my previous load order made, while making room for some more gameplay systems, or some more, like, fleshed out gameplay systems, I should say, more complete, in a sense. So that's what I believe I've done here. This version feels more weighty. It has, well, let me just show you what's going on under the hood, and we can talk about it. So this load order is about 100 mods lighter than my last load order. So what's nice about that is that we can still go into the creation menu. Hopefully this doesn't make us crash. It shouldn't, because I'm below 200 mods. We'll just give that a minute and let everything load before I start scrolling around here, because usually when I stream, things get a little funky and I am liable to crash. So you'll notice as we go through here, you're going to see a lot of mods that were in my previous load orders. It's going to feel very familiar, but it's got a lot of differences as well, and I think the differences are meaningful. It's going to give you a lot more variety in armors and weapons, the way the game feels, the way the character handles. And let me just preface everything by saying what I think makes Skyrim a great game, personally. The reason why people come back to Skyrim, which is a 15-year-old game, something like that, in my mind, isn't because, oh, it's got amazing combat. The gameplay is amazing. The quest writing is amazing. The character, you know, the voice acting is amazing. The story is amazing. None of that is really true. I think the big thing that holds Skyrim together is the atmospheric, detailed, and immersive world that they've built. It's the landscape, it's the weather system. It's a world that you jump into and you want to be in, you want to explore. And that's what I think they've done a really good job with this game. That's the one thing that keeps me coming back to this game. It's not to, fight bandits or wolves for the 1000th time with the same old clunky combat from 15 years ago. That said, this is why I tend to focus a lot of my load orders on visual overhauls, because while the new PS5 edition definitely brings it into the next gen a little bit, I think we can go a little bit further by, sprucing up the towns and make it feel a little bit more lived in, making the NPCs, kind of giving them some enhancements. So that's why I focus so much on those. My previous load order is filled to the brim with changes that do just that. And this load order is not necessarily any different. That said, I trimmed a lot of the fat. That's why we are basically 100 mods lighter. And I wanted to focus on some of the weaknesses of the game. Those old armor sets that you've worn 1,000 times, those old weapons that, at this point, there's nothing really special about them. The character movements, the way it feels, the animations, the fighting, the combat systems, all of that stuff. Some of these systems were present in my last load order, but not to this extent. So you'll see we're still using the Skyrim patch. We got simple workaround framework, just shields. These are all mainstays. We've got reforging to the masses. This is going to add tons of new weapons. It's a pretty heavy mod at 40 megabytes, but I think the variety it gives us is definitely worthwhile. And we also are patching this into Owl, so this is a mod that is going to work nicely with some of the other mods that we're using. So that's always, whenever we can use mods that can patch in with other mods that we're using, that's, it's a mod that's used, it's supported, it plays nice with everything. Those are gold. We're still using water for E&B, trees and cities. I've curated the trees here so that you shouldn't have any real major clipping issues. There's one specific tree in Riften that you'll have to use the enable disable spell, which actually I forgot to add in, so just another opportunity to remind you this is a work in progress. This is an experimental load order, but if you stick with these trees, you shouldn't have very many clipping issues. I've purposely excluded Solitude and like Whiterun because those I was getting some pretty noticeable clipping with JKs. Which, by the way, we are still using. We're still using Obsidian Mountain Fog, still using Lanterns of Skyrim. We're using a different version of Emperata, Fences That Fits. Natural Waterfalls, which is in the wrong place, but I don't think that's going to be a big deal for us. Dragonborn Grunts. So you'll notice I've gone ahead and put quite a few sound changers in here. I think this goes quite a bit away to making the game feel a little bit different, a little bit newer, and I think it creates an overall noticeable effect. We're still using XPM SSE, the enhanced Ragdoll edition with Vera's, Beltfast, and Quivers, so all that is nice. We're using a different alternate start mod. This one's just going to get you right into things. Still loads an alternate world space before you finally load into Skyrim, which is great for setting up your mods, setting up your INI tweaks and things of that nature. So I used to use this years ago. This was always my choice for alternate start mods, but I switched to Realm of Lorkhan for my most recent load orders, but we're back to this. Still using Nordic Sky UI. I personally think it's the most complete UI overhaul. It does sounds, it does the background, it does HUD elements, it does pretty much everything. It's got the Sovereign Guard font, it's got the Oblivion interaction icons. I mean, this to me is an all-in-one package. It's a little heavy at 10 megabytes, but it does everything, so we can justify it. Still using Control. I think this is an absolute must on PS5. Just keeps you from going in and out of menus all the time, you know, to chug a potion or to switch to your shield. Just being able to do a lot of those things on the fly is a welcome change. Definitely helps go the distance in bringing the game into you know, this side of 2015. Bounty previews, a lot of these gameplay like quality of life changes, many of them have been trimmed, but I've kept the important ones. I've done this for simplicity's sake, because you can really get out of hand here, and before you know it, you've got 250, 300 mods. So I've kept the ones that I feel are the most impactful. Bounty preview is a must. This overhaul, there's a lot of focus on combat in this overhaul. In my mind, the thought is that, you know, you want to be in this world, you want to go around and get yourself into combat and, you know, level your character up, but make some money as well. And this I think is helps enhance the immersion there, to be able to pick and choose which bounties you want to take or not take. Unread Books Glow, that's a must for less than 100 kilobytes. This is I think a great mod to have. Haste, we're still using Haste. Haste makes a lot of immersive systems-based tweaks. This is the tweaked version, so this description is not going to list all of the tweaks that this makes, but if you go to the regular Haste, you'll see tons and tons of tweaks that this makes. Like, you know, animals can't, you know, rat you out to the law and stuff like that. You know, just tons of little tiny things that in some ways are even bug fixes. Marry almost anyone. Just, you know, if you play the game for that, it's there. If not, you know, you can choose to get rid of this, but for 30 kilobytes, it's great to have that option. If you're into like role playing or something like that. Dynamic display settings, that's a mainstay, just nice to have for people who, you know, maybe want a little bit more saturation, maybe want a little bit more contrast, maybe a little less brightness, to be able to go in there and tweak those settings at any time of day for interiors, exteriors. The normal dialogue overhauls, guard, realistic, annoying dialogue, all that is still in there. We're still using Vitruvia and Reverie. I think these offer the most cohesive approach to skin textures, being that they are basically from, you know, I think they go hand in hand. I think they don't stray too far from vanilla textures. They don't make your character look like an anime character. If that's what you're into, then, you know, that's fine. But for me personally, these are high quality and don't stray far from vanilla. To me, it's a vanilla plus upgrade, so I stay with those. I stay with Salt and Wind, Real Eyes, Simple Teeth. I mean, you could do like KS hairdos and stuff like that, but the reason I stay with the Salt and Wind is because it's a replacer. It's a hair replacer. So NPCs are going to have these hairs. To my knowledge, KS hairdos is only for the player during character creation. So I like stuff that is going to change large parts of the world, not just me as the character. The teeth overhaul, of course. Writtens. We are still using Writtens. I'm using version 1 this time instead of version 2. That's just a personal preference. I like the version 1 Solitude. I like the version 1 Winterhold. Yeah, we've gone with version 1 this time. And there's some other things that I will mention in regards to Writtens as well. um, hanging moss, and high quality ivy. We are actually not using anything like Dr. Jacopo's Free Plants Pack. We're not using Valart AIO. We're not using Mary's Flora Retextures. We're not using Shrubbery Symphony. We're not using any of that. I would like to have it. If I can find a way to trim some space and fit it in there, I will do so, but I just don't think, while they are nice to have in theory, basically I would have to get rid of something like Rittens, which makes far more sweeping changes for far less space. I mean, the amount of towns and cities that Rittens touches with this 100 megabytes is far more worth it to me, in my mind, than changing a few plants with Dr. Jacopo's at 40 megabytes. 40 megabytes for some retextured plants, in my mind, could be worth it, but we've got a lot more going on here, and it's just, you know, we have other mods that touch flora, and you'll see in a minute why I've chosen to go this route. So we're using Ritten's farmhouses instead of tomatoes now. The reason for that is because we've dropped tomatoes wood, and so we've lost a little bit of that cohesion that would have upscaled the wood for the farmhouses with tomatoes farmhouses. And since Ritten's includes wooden stockades, I wanted that to be cohesive with Ritten's farmhouses so that everything kind of matches. So it's only a 1 megabyte difference between tomatoes and Ritten's, and so why not just go Ritten's, right? Tomatoes, caves, and mines, I think this is one of the more cohesive caves and mines, and definitely for less space than you would get, you know, with going the like maybe the Clever Charf route. So we've gone with tomatoes, caves, and mines. Tomatoes, nature, stone walls, always a mainstay. Retextured road signs, weathered and need banners, all mainstays. Snow shader fix, mainstay. Enhanced blood textures, raid hoe, enhanced rocks and mountains. This is where the load order is going to start to look really, really familiar to our last one. Tomatoes, I just think you can't beat tomatoes on PlayStation 4. For the size of it, you know, it's the best bang for your buck. You know, it includes mountains, it includes snow, it includes ice. The ice looks very good. Does it include DLCs? No, but I'm fine with that for the amount of time I actually spend in those DLC areas, which to me feel broken off and a bit separated from the main world. I'm okay with that. So you're not going to notice any visual rifts between going from one place to another. And at 106 megabytes, it's high quality. It's, you know, the landscapes look great. The biomes are diverse. So I think it's the best bang for your buck, personally. I have tested SRP, I've tested Rittens. I don't like that certain elements of each things are missing, and then I need to slap on a Vanaheim Mountains with SRP, which is already 130 megabytes, and then once you throw Vanaheimers in there, it's you know, close to 200. It's like, you know, for double the, it's for half the space. Tomatoes does it all, basically. Skyrim road reconstruction, we're using this because we have simple roads instead of northern roads. I love northern roads. I would have liked to use it, but it's, at the end of the day, it's just roads, and I wanted to opt for realism approach here. And if you ever go back to like the Vikings show on TV or something like that, one thing you'll notice is like all the roads throughout the towns are dirt. They're not like stone or cobblestone and stuff like that. A lot of those old Nordic countries weren't making stone roads like that. So I think this is a little bit more grounded in realism. And I do like the aesthetic that it has, and we are also enhancing that with the RVX Dirt 02, which is going to replace the O2 dirt retexture that we have from tomatoes, which is good. It's fine. But I like this one a little bit better for the simplest roads. Moss shaders just gives a little bit more depth to those rocks that are laying around, a little bit more variation, variety. Here's the big one, Nature of the Wildlands. We're using that with the Autumn add-on and the low res LOD add-on. I'll explain this in a second. First and foremost, I was always opposed to adding Nature of Wildlands for the sheer amount of space it takes up. However, going back to why I feel people play Skyrim, why they come back to Skyrim, one of the parts of that being the world that they've built, the atmosphere, the landscape. I feel that Nature of the Wildlands is worth its weight to enhance that. There just simply isn't a better tree mod that, you know, it does everything you want a tree mod to do. It makes the forest dense. They're not, you know, they don't make the trees, all the trees are different, lots of different variations. It's not like fabled forests where you see a lot of the same tree models, you know, with big thick tree trunks that obscure the skyline and stuff like that. You see a lot of variation, a lot of variety, lots of different foliage colors, and the placements are incredible. When you're walking through Falkreath, you're like, this is a nice dense forest, you know, as it should be. So Nature of the Wildlands is great. Now, if you wanted to go a little bit lighter approach, I would recommend Vedagolt. Now, Vedagolt is still going to feel like a very dense forest. It also adds a lot of variety in the tree models. I think, I mean, if on terms of space, it's going to be like, I think it's maybe 100 or 130. I think it's like 100, maybe less than, maybe 110 megabytes for Vedagolt. Now, the tree models, most of them are very good. The one gripe I have with Vedagolt is that the tree models in the Rift area are a little weird looking. The way the branches come off the birch trees are kind of like jaggedy is the best way I could describe them. It's a little off-putting, but hey, for like 130 megabytes less, that is one small thing about that mod that's very easily overlookable. You're still going to have beautiful variation in your trees and beautiful, thick, lush forests. It is it's very doable. So, and I may do that at some point for this, but at the moment I'm enjoying Nature of the Wildlands. I like the amount of the world, so for the moment I'm going to keep it. We have the low res add-on instead of the improved add-on because our INI tweaks basically push the distance at which the LOD trees start showing up. So I think the value is mid LOD switch is what the INI tweak is called, trees mid LOD switch. And we've set that to 1,000,000, whereas default it sets it to like 3,600. So we've drastically increased that distance before LOD trees start popping in. So you'll never be close enough to an LOD tree, in theory, to actually see what quality it is. They're going to be far, far, far off in the distance. So that is the reason for the low-res LOD. That helps save us like maybe 5 or 6 megabytes of space. I think 6 or 7 actually. I think it's like 11 megabytes. But also those low-res LOD add-ons are going to be a little bit less on FPS, which basically kind of cancels out since we're increasing the distance at which the LODs actually start to pop in. But it's fine. Life is about balance. So Vedas Brahm region still I think is the best grass mod in terms of variety. Is it the most lush? No, not necessarily, but you could definitely make it more lush with your I&I tweaks, which is something that we've kind of done with ours. However, that's not really why I have this. I have this because I really appreciate the variety in the grass. Lots of different types of foliage on the ground. We've got Origins of Forest, and this is where you're going to get that grass density. We're also using the less saturated version, which I think pairs well with NAT, which we are using. And this is the 512 version, so it's only going to cost you like 3 megabytes of space. And I also feel that this also helps on FPS going with the 512. Now, I'm not exactly sure how stacking grass mods works when you are not patching them together. My guess is like everything else, the two mods would be fighting to see which one wins in a certain area. So at certain times, Veda's Brahm pull through, at certain times, Origins of Forest through. In practice, what I've noticed is that they do blend. So there's not going to be places where you see only Origins of Forest without any Veda's Brahm at all. They blend, so you'll see both in all areas. But what I've noticed is that since we're using the 512 Origins of Forest, I think that there's times where, Veda's Brahm pulls through in certain areas, and Origins of Forest pulls through in some areas where Veda's Brahm sort of starts to surround those areas where it's pulling through. What I think this leads to is less of a performance hit, since Origins of Forest, we're only using the 512. Now, I don't know what the textures are for Veda's Brahm, but I have to imagine they're probably like 1K. But I do notice when I pair the two together, you wouldn't think, but I do get better FPS. Grass fixes, the usual suspects here: remove ugly shrubs. We've got the water plants, TMD, rift leaves. We're still going the modular approach for the 13's beaten path. So we've got Krylax bundle, which includes the interesting roads, the ancient lands. We've got the unmarked locations. We've got prettier roads, which does tons and tons of stuff to make our roads nicer. Ivy Gates of Riverwood, Ranger Boys with the Nature of the Wildlands patch added in there. Hold border banners, which goes nicely with our Enid banners. Improved bridges is back. Not much to say there. This just really, this is the compatible version, which takes into consideration the bridges that are changed by JK's outskirts, so that's always nice. Still using JK's version 2. We've got Green Thumb in there still. We're now using Vetagold Whiterun trees, which is compatible with JK's Skyrim, so that's a nice easy one to just throw in there. It uses vanilla trees, so whatever tree replacer we have, like Nature of the Wildlands, is going to add its trees into Vetagold's Whiterun trees placements. Still using JK's outskirts. I just think the JK's ecosystem is, in my mind, it's the best. It has the most patches. I would say a close second is Spaghetti's. Now, the reason why I tend to not opt for Spaghetti's, I'm not opposed to Spaghetti's. I would potentially use Spaghetti's, but even if I used Spaghetti's to change a lot of the towns, I would still probably throw in JK's outskirts to change a lot of the outskirts. And I just feel like, okay, well, if we're already in the JK's ecosystem, why not just keep it all JK's? All of the JK's mods have patches. Usually when something released like Lanterns of Skyrim or Water for E&B, there's always a JK patch that comes with it. It's just the way it is. So we like it when we can, use mods that patch in with mods that we're already using. The other thing is, Spaghetti's is nice. It does add some variety to some of the towns and cities and faction halls and palaces and things of that nature, but they're generally pretty small things that sometimes you may not even notice, right? Like what I like about JK's is that, you know, it expands the buildings. It goes a little bit further to enhancing the towns than Spaghetti's. You know, Spaghetti's might, you know, throw a hay bale in a corner here and place a on top of it and put some flags across, you know, some of the vendor stalls and little things like that, which those are nice. Those are nice if you want just like an enhanced vanilla experience, like just a vanilla plus experience. You go with Spaghetti's. It's nice. It's lightweight. It doesn't change tons of placements, which makes it play nicer with a lot of other, you know, like texture overhauls, you know, tree overhauls, and you know, stuff like that. However, for wanted the vanilla plus approach, so we go with JK's Skyrims. Also, I really like JK's interiors. I feel like the interiors in this game are just so sparse. There's not a lot of detail to them. So you need JK's in order to enable JK's interiors. You need JK Skyrim, sorry, to enable JK's interiors. So it's just, listen, they all go together. It's a package deal. They are they are really comprehensive in the amount of locations that they cover. So I just don't think there's much else that really rivals JK's, in my opinion. Vanilla plus city entrances, abstract Skyrim, those are mods that you'll recognize. Gates of Riverwood, the JK's patch. Raid Ho is back. I know a lot of people don't like to pay for mods, but if I was going to spend money on any mod, it would be Raid Ho. And the reason why is because it adds a lot of nice, beautiful details to the roads on your travels. I mean, you could still download 13's Beaten Path and you could still get that effect, but what I like about this is that there's no conflicts with 13's Beaten Path. It can be used with Northern Roads without any issues. There's a lot of patches. It patches into JK's, it patches into Spaghetti's, it patches into Ruins over Riverwood. It's very thorough, and I like the changes it makes. They're very nice. So we've included all those here. We've got RINs, just the ones that change multiple locations. This is a new one. Ysmir just released this recently. We've got the Ruins bundle, which includes the Nordic Ruins SE, and then patches in Nordic Ruins exteriors. It also has, I believe, Dwemer Ruins exteriors. It's got Watchtowers of Skyrim, Imperial Castles, medieval towers. It's got, I mean, just look at the sheer list of this. Northern Scenery, Solstheim AIO, Sims Frostful Lighthouse. It's got tons of location overhauls here. Now this is one that's going to require some testing. A lot of these mods I'm familiar with and should work just fine with no clipping or no issues. This is the RINs compatible version as well, so there's going to be no issue with our RINs mods. And we're not using Northern Roads, so Northern Scenery and things of that nature should be just fine. I don't see any reason why this would cause any conflicts. But it's pretty untested, so you know, we'll have to play and explore to see what happens. Still using some Spaghetti's here. Now, the reason why I don't just download the Spaghetti's Towns AIO for the simplicity of, you know, sorting all of these mods is because I've curated this Spaghetti's list specifically to exclude towns or faction halls for that matter, or cities for that matter, that are not already being handled by JK's. So all of these cities and towns are mods that would be otherwise completely vanilla. So is it a little bit of a pain to sort through these like 10 or so Spaghetti's Towns individually versus just downloading an AIO? Yes, but if you want to eliminate any kind of clipping, this is the way to do it. And I do know if you were going to download the towns, It includes Riverwood, and for sure there is clipping between JKs and spaghettis in Riverwood. It's rather minor, so if you don't care about things like that, you can just download the town's AIO. But you know, why bother? You know, why bother with that if you can just eliminate the issues and download the ones you need specifically? You know, and then you don't have any clipping or any issues, any immersion breaking issues. Still using Lush Dragon's Reach, Markarth City of Stone, JK's Interiors, as we mentioned. Still using Extended Encounters, Lightly Populated Settlements, Missives, Better Courier, Idrins tweaks for the Courier. We've got Sleep Tight, which I think is a nice little immersion addition. Rescue missions again for immersion. We've got 13's Critter Fix, which I think is going to be a mainstay from now on. Horse and riding animation, I think that's a mainstay. We've got enemy overhaul skeleton, armor skeleton. This is a slightly different one from our last skeleton overhaul. This just adds the changes a lot of the skeletons in the game to an armored variant. We were previously using a damaged skeleton variant, and the reason I switched this is just it was a little bit lighter on space and just something different I thought would be kind of cool. Still using Spectre. We're using Riverboard Wolves this time around. I wanted to throw in Fluffworks. At one point I was testing it. Fluffworks was working nicely, but I couldn't justify the 60 megabytes. In my mind, wolves and bandits are going to be the two things you fight the most in this game, and so I wanted there to be a nice improvement to the wolves, because the wolf fur textures vanilla are god awful, and to that effect we've also changed the dogs to huskies, which I think is nice and fitting to the northern area, and I think it also is going to help with that kind of really cruddy dog fur texture. Still using Majestic Dragons Glorious. I like that this is a nice lightweight overhaul for the dragons. It still keeps the vanilla textures of the dragons, however it makes some proportional changes to the dragons to make them appear much larger and much more intimidating. At 13 kilobytes, you really can't beat it. Butterflies Land True and Butterflies Unchained, great for little like cherry on top type of immersion. You know, just walking through the roads and watching butterflies kind of fly around is really nice. Realistic Dog Sounds gets rid of that god awful barking and replaces it with something a little closer to real life. Excuse me. Still using Valkyrie. I thought about throwing in Ordinator. The thing is, I wanted a game. I always want a game that feels balanced. I don't want to add mods that add things that could make you overpowered, and I feel like this is a minimalistic perk overhaul that does just that. And then we're using Mysticism, which basically is just a rebalance of a lot of existing spells. It adds some new magical artifacts to the game. It fixes some bugs with vanilla magic. It fills in gaps with the game's skill progression. You know, a few new spells from previous games. So I think that this is a fairly decent way to upscale the magic in the game without making it unbalanced. Still got playable survival. I think this is a must-have if you play survival. I personally like to. I feel like it adds a little bit more depth to the game and makes it feel like you're really living and surviving in the game. You know, you got to eat when you're hungry. You got to sleep when you're tired. You got to look out for the cold, so things like that. We are using GDB's Elden Beast this time around. This is something I've played around with in the past, and I've opted to use it again. The reason why I didn't go the modular approach this time, like my last load order, is because I like that Elden Beast is cohesive in its animations, in its character movements. It gives you a lot of options to change the weapon stances and in the attack animations. If you play around with the settings, you'll notice there's a lot of different options there for one-handed attacks, two-handed attacks, your idle animations. So this is something that if you really play with, you can really get that effect that you're looking for. I also just like the way that, first of all, it contains Wildcat, which is a comprehensive combat overhaul. Are there other overhauls out there? Like, I'm not going to get into the semantics of which one's better. I think Wildcat is great. It's very customizable, so you can go in. If you don't like the injury system, you can turn off the injury system, which I do personally. It also includes, GDB's also includes the dodge roll animation. It's basically an all-in-one for your combat. It's heavy at 60 megabytes, but I like the way it feels. I like the way my character moves around. I like the way my character feels when I'm moving. So I think it adds a bit of depth in terms of the combat. You're going to really feel this one when you're playing Discload Order. It's definitely a nice change of pace, and it doesn't feel choppy or disjointed when you take a more modular approach to adding in weapon animations. Like, everything kind of has a bit more of a cohesive feel. We still got comprehensive first-person animation overhaul for those who like to play in first person. I personally like to switch back and forth, so why not include both? Head tracking light, proper aiming, wider block angle, dynamic camera, all mainstays. Dynamic camera, you'll see the settings I'm using for dynamic camera go a long way for giving you just changing the feel. And I think it goes really, really well with GDB's Elden Beast to giving you a more weighty feel. I play a melee character, so I've kind of designed the dynamic camera to feel a little bit like For Honor. We're using Andromeda, and then I don't even know how to say this guy's name. Sayon. A lot of people like this guy's mods. I think they're pretty good. They change a lot of different systems. I wish I could have fit in some more. I actually had more in here at one point, and I had to get rid of some of them. But I've kept the ones that I felt made important changes. So this one's going to enhance the Standing Stone, kind of the perks and some of the abilities that it changes. We've got the Morningstar minimalistic race enhancements. So he's got another one. I think it's called Impervious or Imperious, I think it's called. The reason I didn't go for that one, it is newer. This one was released on PlayStation back when we still had a lot of those old PS4 limitations. So he's adapted it with those PS4 limitations in mind. But I kind of liked that approach. I like the simplicity of it. I like that it's not going to add things that make my character overpowered. It's a nice change. It's just a variant over vanilla. So I like that. Improved bandits, going back to what I was saying earlier, the two things you're going to fight the most in this game are going to be bandits and wolves. So I wanted to make sure I enhanced those a little bit. This is going to make the combat quite a bit more challenging. I fought two bandits right outside of Embershard Mine the first time I downloaded this, and they wrecked my shit. So in addition to our combat enhancements, this is going to be something that I think kind of changes the flavor a little bit here. We're still using open world loot, kind of gives you a little bit more depth to the exploration and the progression in the game, which I think is nice. If you're going for a long playthrough, you'll kind of feel yourself progressing more, and the enemies around you sort of progressing as you progress. And we've patched in randomized loot, which just is, I guess, just fixes some things over the open world loot base, and then Reforging to the Masses is patched into this. So, so is Improved Bandits. So all of the mods that we're using, generally that affects gameplay, are practically patched into owl, which I love that about this. So just another reason to use it. Surrender, this was uploaded recently by Seago. This is basically going to make it so enemies can surrender. You could potentially recruit them as well. And if you get low on health, they could potentially stab you in the back, figuratively and literally. I think just another, you know, it's there if you want to do it. If you want to recruit a guy or you just finish him off, it's there. It adds a little bit more immersion to the experience, I think. So you could take it out, you could leave it. I think it's cool. I like it. Skillful Chef, no kill moves. The reason why I go with no kill moves is I personally feel like the VATS system in this game kind of breaks up the combat, interrupts it sometimes. Like if you use a mod like Violence that adds more kill moves and increases the percentage for opportunity that you'll have kill moves, I just feel like why download combat mods if you're just going to let the game sort of finish everything off for you? So we've spent a lot of megabytes on our combat. I want to actually use it without, you know, having the game automatically finish things for me. So and then, you know, breaking down that slow motion and not having, it's not just about the kill moves, it's about getting rid of that slow motion. It just slows everything down, and you know, I personally don't care for it. Vanilla Plus player homes, you'll recognize that. Nordwar UA. So I wish I could fit the entire package in here. It's just not feasible. So I changed some of the armors that are, you know, going to be familiar to people, as some of these are starting armors, and I think it adds a lot of depth and variety because it doesn't just change the armors, it changes the shields as well, and which is kind of why I wish I could fit the entire full vanilla replacer mod in here, but it's just not feasible. But this is enough to give you some variety, and I personally like just sometimes playing the game with the steel armor or the iron armor instead of, you know, getting the dragon bone or whatever. I kind of just like the aesthetic of steel armor and steel plate armor, so that's how I play anyway. But lowered hoods, just some more variety in there for you know, you hooded characters. Maybe you're a mage or something like that. Lanterns of Skyrim 2, these are the patches for it. At 40 megabytes, I could have probably left Lanterns of Skyrim 2 out. I think it is such a immersion enhancer to be walking along the road and you see the lanterns swaying in the wind on a windy day. You know, you see the moths flying around them at night. I like the way it kind of brings a cohesive tone to the braziers, to the fire pits, to the lanterns. It all kind of has like a matching color, and I like it. I like as a lantern mod, I love it, and as an exterior lighting mod, I love it. So is it worth it at 40? I don't know. You know, that may be a personal preference. You could just as easily uninstall this and just go with your preferred lighting stack. But then again, you're limited to lighting because we're using JK's Interiors. If you're going to use JK's Interiors, you can basically only use exterior only lighting mods. So I felt like this lends well to our JK stack. You know, it touches just the exteriors, which allows us, we're using NAT, which also includes lighting enhancements, and then NAT is going to make its enhancements over top of the exterior lighting system that Lanterns of Skyrim touches, as well as whatever's left over for the interior. So we've got the immersive spell enhancements for lighting. We've got Kitty Tails V4, ENB hands. These are all things that we had in our last load order. Definitely can't play without those. We've got Mysticism Light Magic. This is the patch for Kitty Tails to work with Mysticism particle patch. That's a must in my opinion. DVLASS, this is a must in my opinion. And then that's the lighting. the sound overhauls, you're going to notice some changes here. We were previously just using the Skyrim environmental audio enhancer, which basically just opens up that third channel for those of you who play with like a sound bar, or you've got some kind of surround system. So I personally play with a sound bar, so I like to have this on. We've got magic sound overhauls. We've got footsteps with armor overhauls. We've got weapon sound overhauls. We've got the increased voice dialogue, because nothing's worse than when it's pouring rain and you can barely hear the characters speak. Just a few different changes there for the sound. We're still using useful map locations. We've dropped Weathers of World because I just feel like it's not really necessary. Just kind of, you know, a nice little thing to have, but definitely not necessary. Volcanic tundra heat wave effect. This is going to kind of create like a heat effect in areas where, you know, it's like a what do you call those things, like a hot spa pool, like those types of things, like, you know what I'm talking about. So for the size of it, I threw it in there. Water for E and B, we're using the Shades of Skyrim version. This is the 512 version. I like this version. The 512 is fine. You're not going to notice a difference from the 1K version. I tested around with some of the other ones. This is the one that requires the master file. It also requires a patch if you're using JK's Outskirts. The other ones that Kovac uploaded, like the Mineral Teal or the Nordic Blue, those ones don't require any patches. They also don't require the Water for E and B master file. What I like about this one is that all of the waters across Tamriel are in Skyrim are basically specific to where the water is. So like if it's a small little puddle, it's going to be kind of murky and dark. You know, if it's, you know, the ocean, it's going to look different than if it's a river, you know. So everything, all the shades are different based on their respective locations, which I like. I tested out the Mineral Teal one. While I do like the color, it's a little strange to see the same color in a river as you see in a little murky puddle. So I felt like this one's just a bit more realistic, and, you know, as far as immersion goes, this is where it's at. We're still using water effects, brightness, and reflection. We're still using NAT. Was for the size, you really can't beat it. I like Azurite, but with this setup, I chose Nat. Basically, it's half the amount of megabytes. It does the it overhauls the lighting system to make a more cohesive look. I like how atmospheric it is with the base mod. Like, no add-ons are necessary for mist or anything like that, really. Like, Nat is atmospheric on its own. And then we have the mountain fogs, obsidian mountain fogs, so that kind of enhances it a little bit. But Nat on its own is fantastic. There's lots of different things you can do to kind of change how it looks. You can make it more saturated. You can kind of change the color tones. You can use your dynamic display settings to basically change this however you want. But on its own, out of the box, Nat is perfect. The problem I have with one of my previous load orders with Azurite and Mythical Ages patched in is that Mythical Ages creates some nice welcomed variation in the weather patterns when those Mythical Ages weathers play, and they are using, while they do use the Azurite assets, like you can tell when a Mythical Ages weather is playing at night, because it'll be drastically darker at night, and it's just really hard to balance even with the dynamic display settings. Like, you'll turn up the brightness for night when a Mythical Ages weather is playing, and you'll get it just right, and then like the next night it'll be an Azurite weather's night and it'll be like overly bright. So if I were to use Azurite, I probably wouldn't use the Mythical Ages with it. I would just use Azurite. But for this tone, for this vibe that I'm going for, this natural kind of like immersive world I wanted to build here, I felt that Nat fit the best. And to that effect, we've also got Northern Realistic Clouds. I like Kovac's port of Cloudy Skies. However, I feel like the Northern Realistic Clouds is a little bit more realistic to the northern location. I also feel like the clouds being a little bit sharper as opposed to the cloudy ones, they are a little bit softer around the edges. I just feel like it's a lot more realistic to the location, and I feel like it fits in better with NAT. We've got Stars of Nirn, low fantasy, just sort of changes the galaxy at nighttime. Nats alone is wonderful, but it's just a little cherry on top. The sun rework I think is a must with NAT. I personally cannot stand the super intense sun flare that comes with base NAT, so I threw the sun rework in there. You could also throw in the what is it called, no sun glare mod, which I've done previously in other load orders, but I like that this one is a retexture for the sun as well. So I wanted to try this out and kind of see how it goes. We've got the new grass LED terrain noise tint. This is, I believe, the darker version. This was uploaded recently by Yizmir, and it just makes it so that the landscape, the LOD landscape, when it's, when the landscape gets far away, instead of using the vanilla LODs, it uses a custom one, and I think this looks better and more cohesive with our current landscape texture, and it's a little bit higher res. You're not going to, it's not the deviation between the landscape and then the LOD landscape is not going to be as jarring as vanilla. So I like this. No camera filters is a must. I think it also helps with FPS, so I always leave that on. Same with insignificant object remover, just a nice little FPS booster, and gets rid of some of those ugly little objects that generally you never notice, but if you're one of those people who like to look up close, there it is. Simplest roads, we had to load this super low because we were getting some stone road patterns pulling through our dirt roads. So this is actually going to be loaded in our performance / last section. Artificial intelligence limit increaser is back. I used to use this back in the day, but I don't know what happened to it. It was like deleted or just gone for a while. It's back now. So I throw that in there. Basically makes it so that the extra NPCs that you add, or even just the vanilla NPCs, sometimes when you get too many in a specific location, they'll just stand around and they won't do anything. That's why sometimes you walk into a town and they're all just there in the middle of the town, just hanging out. Looks like they're having a meeting. This is going to make it, this increases the amount of NPCs in a cell that can use their AI. So instead of just standing around like robots, they'll actually start to do stuff, and this becomes more important when you have mods like we do that increase the population sizes. So everyone should be doing something. Deluxe INI tweak again. This is just our foundation for our INI tweaks. It changes quite a bit. We go in and tweak some of these with our Game Breaker mod, and I've already done all of that. So that's the end of the load order. Again, this is experimental. I'm still playing around with which mods I want to keep, which mods I want to add. In a perfect world, I would have even just another 100 megabytes of space. I could really perfect this load order. There's a lot of mods that I wanted to add that I just didn't have space for. Yeah, I guess let's start looking at what we got here. I've already set everything up, but I just want to show you guys some of the INI tweaks that I do make and why. So I talked earlier about, hold on. I talked earlier about Nature of the Wildlands, and the low res add-on for it, the LOD add-on. I'm using the low res add-on to save space. I'm using the low res add-on to increase performance. The reason why I'm not tripping up over using the low res add-on instead of using the improved add-on is because we've changed our trees mid-lodge switch distance to 1 million. Default is like 3,600, right? Deluxe INI does not touch this value. The reason why we touch this value and what this value does is it's going to basically push the distance out at which those LOD trees actually start to spawn in. So before you ever even see a low res LOD tree from Nature of the Wildlands, and you're not even gonna be able to tell that it's low res. So we've bumped that all the way up to 1 million. So this is not gonna negatively impact your performance or anything. It's just, you know, it's gonna definitely help increase those details and improve this sort of LOD effect that we've gone for here. Grass. I change my max grass types per texture from Deluxe. Deluxe sets it at 25. I change it to 15, which is actually the max you can change it in SWF and Game Breaker. The reason why I do that is because I think that this helps cut down on some of the overgrowth problems that people tend to have, without necessarily having to use something like landscape fixes for grass mods or things of that nature. Even though we still use No Gracias, which basically helps with clipping through objects and rocks and things of that nature, which I think it does pretty well on its own. But landscape fixes for grass mods is like 7 megabytes. And then if you want the add-on from Seago that makes the grass stop growing in roads, that's like another 7. So it's 15 megabytes if you want to get crazy about getting rid of all that grass in places you don't want it. Or you can come in here and you can change this value down to 15 or even lower, really. Could even be helpful. It's definitely not going to hurt us to do that. So, and then I've made the grass a little bit more lush than Deluxe. Deluxe sets this value to 45. I've changed it to 42. Basically, the higher the number is with the Einman grass size, the shorter the grass is going to be. So those are the two changes I've made there. And then all the other ones in Game Breaker are the usual changes from my previous load orders. The grass, I've gone ahead and matched to SWF. I turn bats off. The water, I enable all the reflections. And particles, I've changed to 10,000, which definitely helps the performance from Deluxe, because Deluxe changes particles to like 40,000. So let's spawn in and check some things out. I usually play with this on, but we're going to turn it off for now, just while we're testing and things of that nature. I'm also going to do a hard save here so that I can continue playing from this location after testing. Alright. Let's get our weapons and stuff like that set up. Set up our control. Alright, so our camera settings, let me talk about those for a minute, because I feel like they do kind of help a lot with the effect that you want here. So idle, basically for idle, melee, and range, they're all going to be the same. So we're going to come here. Alignment is going to be off to the right. Height is going to be low. This kind of helps give you that for honor kind of camera angle. And then zoom is going to be close. That's going to be the same for idle, melee, and ranged. For zoom, we're going to go to minimum, and then you're going to do close. FOV, this is your preference, but I personally choose 100, and then that's it. So that's the camera. Everything else, I've already set up, but basically, you configure your Wildcat settings. I'll just show you real quick what I do and just how quick you can really come in here and change these. I keep a lot of these at default. Bow attack cost, disable bow pull, we keep that at default. This is where I start turning things off. Disable health-based regeneration, I personally like to disable that. Disable slow stamina at 0 stamina, I disable that. I feel like Wildcat already makes the stamina and health regeneration pretty harsh as it is.
2 years ago you told me this was Skyrim in PSI would have called you a madman.
Yeah, I know, it's come a long way, man. Disable swimming stamina costs, I turn this off. These are all personal preferences, by the way. Activate full body stagger, I keep that at default. And then disable injuries, I personally like to turn that off. And then everything else, I just keep at default. So once you know what you're doing in there, it takes like all of 5 seconds to change all those settings. And we've got our Andromeda, so our Warrior Stone's going to be a little bit different. We inflict more damage with power attacks and long-range shots, and we also have the additional experience with the Warrior skills, so it's a nice little change there with the Andromeda mod. We're going to throw our shield on. Now, I'll tell you one thing here. You are going to get some jank with just shields on back and Elden Beast. So you'll notice when I unsheath my sword when I have a shield, you see that little bit of, that was like a little double unsheath effect there. That will only happen when you have a shield. In general, it's not a huge problem. I like to overlook it. I personally like the immersion of having the shield on my back anyway. So I choose to live with it. This is the hide armor from Nordwar UA. I think it's way better than the normal hide armor. This is also the iron shield that it adds. I think way better than the typical iron shield. And we're going to get into our first fight here, and I may end up getting my shit wrecked here, so... Camera's just a little too close. There we go.
You're mine!
Oh, you see that? So, Wildcat has this thing where if you get hit in the back, they basically do like extra damage. I didn't even see that guy coming. So we'll be a little bit more careful here, but yeah, the improved bandits makes a huge difference. It definitely makes the combat a little bit more grueling.
You picked a bad time to get lost, friend.
Oh, I got hit in the back again. So you really have to be careful. You can't just walk in and start throwing your sword around. It's kind of like a little bit more like a Dark Souls game. You gotta really think about how you want to approach each fight.
Never should have come here.
You picked a bad time to get lost, Ben.
Looky here, looks like we got ourselves a hero. Time to finish this. That's it. That's all you've got. I'll bury you.
Pop a potion. Oh, we've lost our shield. That's not our shield. Where did our shield go? Oh, I never hotkeyed it. Okay, now where did our sword go? There we go.
You're dead! Dead!
The guy up here shooting at us with arrows. We kind of deal with him quick.
Just give up!
I think I'm gonna try the dual sword approach with this guy. This is one of those new iron swords added by Reforging to the Masses. This Iron Bastard sword. Stats are much better. Oh, it's a two-handed, no wonder.
Looks damn nice.
Okay. Now, let's throw on our iron outfit. I don't think we have... Do we have gloves? Gloves? I don't think we have gloves yet. But we've got a new shield. Turn that off. I guess I'll take that gold. I already looted this guy. He's got hide bracers on. Let's go check this guy up top and see if he had some gloves for us. No, definitely not. Braided iron sword. Alright, we'll find some gloves somewhere, hopefully. We could go into the mine, but I don't want to. I think I want to just keep going forward with our testing here. So you see those sound mods are doing their thing here. Let me hotkey this as well. Iron Bastard sword, Iron Braided sword. Let me take these off. And then what we'll do is put that on there, put that on there. There we go. Getting a little bit of jank here. Trying to put my weapon away. There it goes. See that? Our dirt replacer replacing our tomatoes dirt, and the kind of effect it makes on the simplest roads. Nice little like bits of pebbles in there, and like I think it adds a little bit more detail to the dirt textures. Definitely hear wolves. Not sure where they are though. I was hoping we would get some wolf action because I want to see the new wolf retexture we have. There they are. Got our water for EMB, looking nice. As usual. Some of the textures with Nature of the Wildlands are not super great. Like, I noticed all of these fallen logs kind of look a little cruddy. I think that's just due to the limitations on PS5. Even the up-close tree textures on Nature of the Wildlands are not anything to write home about, but really what you use Nature of the Wildlands for are two things: the LODs, the tree models themselves, and the placements. And I think it goes a long way. So if you can overlook those little up-close textures, Nature of the Wildlands is great. If you can't, use Veda Gulch trees instead. So we've got Ritten's farmhouses. One thing I really love about Ritten's farmhouses is the doors. A lot of nice detail on the doors. All dogs are huskies. This may actually be affecting our wolf replacer. I may have to change those orders, because this looks the exact same as those wolves over there. It's cool. Definitely a lot better looking than the normal dog texture, for sure. Yeah, it looks so much better than the normal dog texture. And actually, I don't know if it normally looks like this, or if this is also picking up some of our Riverboard's wolf textures. I'm really not clear on that, but I'll have to play around with that. Either way, it looks good. So Riverwood is looking really nice. I've chose not to use the wet and cold mod because it acts a little funny when you're using NAT. But NAT also has some of those same effects, like the water dripping off your gear, as you would normally get from the wet and cold mod. I don't know that you'll get the like the cold breath when you're in cold locations. You know, some of those extra bells and whistles you might not get, but with Elden Beast, you do get a different animation when you're cold that your character starts to shiver. So everything's a give and take, but not using wet and cold also saves us 15 megabytes of space. So yeah, see, we're definitely getting husky textures on our wolves, which is not a terrible thing. I do want to see if I can fix that. It does look like the Riverboard fur, though. So I'm kind of getting a double effect here. Either way, it looks infinitely better than the vanilla wolves. Obsidian Mountain Fog's looking amazing. We're using just natural waterfalls this time around. No TMD waterfalls patched in. Not really necessary. Waterfalls are looking really nice, just with natural waterfalls. And the natural waterfalls mod also makes these little like rapid effects kind of better. Got little raindrops in the water. Our I&I tweaks are kind of bumping up the particle effects there that you see happening around the waterfall. Some of that mist and stuff. What I really like about this dirt texture is how well it actually blends with tomatoes. Like, you would think because this is a different dirt texture that you would see like a greater deviation where they start to change, but like this is the normal. Actually, that might even be a dirt 02 texture too. I'm really not sure anymore. But either way, like the way it all starts to blend is really, really nicely done. No seams. You know, the added benefit of using, oh, here's one, definitely for sure, these are tomatoes textures, right? I know that for a fact. The way they start to blend together is done really, really well. So these little areas out here are being affected by our terrain noise mod. Now, normally these would have, like, you would notice like repeating patterns and some tiling. You're still seeing the LODs, so right, like you're not seeing like the grass and all that other stuff, but it's a lot less harsh. If you were to compare this to vanilla, you would see the difference right away. But overall, I'm pleased with that. I don't see any flickering or pop-in or anything like that. It looks very, very cohesive in terms of coloring with the landscape over here. So I'm happy with that. The trees, the LODs, you can see it all the way from the mountains all the way over there. We're not using Whiterun Forest Borealis this time, so there's not really going to be too many trees out there in the tundra. But that's okay. And even though we're not using northern roads, there's, you know, because of our other mods, there's still lots and lots to see out there on your travels on the roads. Our weathered road signs. You know, one thing I forgot to check in Riverwood that I wanted to check was the fences, and I didn't even notice them, which tells me they're blending really good with our writtens. That's a new axe added by Reforging to the Masses. So I decided not to use Rin's Whiterun expansion. I think JK's Outskirts handles the Whiterun Outskirts just fine. Tons of extra detail out here over vanilla. there's really no need to get all that extra by patching rins in here. It just gets really busy. It hampers performance. Sometimes less is more. That is... Oh. Some weird audio there. So the Western Watchtower is getting changes from our medieval castles, our imperial castles, or medieval towers and imperial castles. It's also getting a texture overhaul from Ritten's imperial, Ritten's imperial, what is it? Castles and Dungeons, I think it's called. So that looks really nice. Check out Whiterun and see how the Vedigold tree mod is holding up in here. Should be no clipping whatsoever.
Halt! City's closed with the dragons about. Official business only. Fine. But we'll be keeping an eye on you.
We'll pay whatever it takes, but we must have more swords for the Imperial soldiers.
I just can't fill an order that size on my own. Why don't you swallow that stubborn pride of yours and ask Yorland Greymane for help?
I'd sooner bend my knee to Ulfric's Stormcloak. Besides, Greymane would never make steel for the Legion.
Have it your way. I'll take the job, but don't expect a miracle.
Is that a cow? Huh. Oh. Interesting.
In each of us, the future of Skyrim, the future of Tamriel. And there it is, friend. The ugly. We are the children of man. Talos is the true god of man, ascended from flesh to rule the realm. Spirit. The very idea is inconceivable to our elven overlord. Sharing that with man? Ah! They can barely tolerate our presence on Earth. Nay. There's no telling what it means. What would you have me do then? Nothing? My lord, please. This is no time for rash action. I just think we need more information before we act. I just... Who's this then?
Loving all the different colors with the trees.
I breathe now in royalty and reshape this land which
I know your family's honor is important to you.
So sick. Can hardly stand it.
Give me your money.
I don't have any money.
You better give me 5 septims right now or I'm gonna bloody your nose.
No, please. I really don't have any money, Brave. I'll give you 10 septims tomorrow. Just don't hit me.
10 septims tomorrow.
It looks great. No clipping. Loving it. I want to go check out Solitude, because this was the whole reason why I went with Ritten's V1 all-in-one, because I really like Ritten's version 1 of Solitude. Oh, here we go. Beautiful night sky. Our Stars of Nirn galaxy coming through there. It's really nice.
If you've come to Solitude to join the Legion, speak to Rika. If not, just keep your nose clean while you're here. You'll end up like an old...
Really like the glow as well. I was previously using Moon Effects Brightness mod, and then just reading through Nat's description again, it has sort of a built-in effect where the more visible the moon is, the more lighting you will get. So I realized that it wasn't necessary, and just letting Nat do its thing on its own. Just kind of really loving the lighting right now, the kind of glow from the aurora and the moon. Looks really nice. It's definitely executed very well.
They can't hurt Uncle.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip this to daytime so we can see those Ritten's textures. There was one tree that was giving me an issue here, but I should have fixed it. So
Bogbeer? Tell them he didn't do it.
Positions.
Sorry, you need to go home.
So what I like about this version as opposed to the medieval version, Ritten's Medieval Solitude, is like the kind of white stone here, as opposed to like that reddish brown stone. Oh yeah, so that tree is gone. I was getting a tree poking through this thing,
Opening that gate for Ulfric, you betrayed
looks like it's fixed.
There was no murder. Ulfric challenged Story. He beat the High King in fair.
Still getting a little bit of a sun glare there, but not extreme. Not as extreme as Nat's normal sun glare usually is. So that sun rework mod is doing its thing. Really like the contrast there between the brown wood and the white stone here. Stained glass windows, looking really nice. Even the roofs, I like the contrast between the darker roofs with the lighter color of the stone on the buildings. Yeah, even the Blue Palace looks like there's a lot more variety in the color of the interior of the Blue Palace, the version 1.
We'll need to visit each
Normally this is all red, but you see like a lot of whites with these blue details. Pairs really well with these red
We need someone to
curtains.
investigate.
Then we will immediately send out a legion to scour the cave and secure the town. Hafengar's people will always be safe under my rule.
Your Eminence, my scrying has suggested nothing in the area. Dragon Bridge is under Imperial control. This is likely superstitious nonsense.
Jake Agent 2 does a really nice job in the Blue Palace.
Might be called for.
Oh, yes, of course, you were right. Falk, tell Captain Aldous I said to assign a few extra soldiers to Dragon Bridge.
We're still getting that interior fog, which tells me that the remove interior fog mod is being overwritten by NAT, the lighting overalls that NAT makes. So I'm probably going to pull that out because obviously it's redundant, it's not working. And it's a master file, so I'm unable to load it after that. So that's kind of useless.
Do with as you please. But what about those who depend on you so much?
Yeah, even the ivy growing up the side of the buildings kind of pops a lot more than the medieval solitude, because the medieval solitude stones are so much darker. You really don't get that contrast between light and dark. Yeah, so far I'm really liking version 1.
I'm not interested, Jari. It doesn't matter.
We will go to...
You might want to rethink that. You're missing out on some wonderful opportunities working with that.
First I want to check out Lincoln Skeever.
Come on in. We got warm food, warm drinks, and warm beds.
Oh yeah. This is nice. I like that stone floor. Alright, we're gonna go check out Winterhold because that was the year I was getting those stones popping through my road. I should have fixed it though. Looks like we're doing pretty good here. Ritten's farmhouse is looking really nice here.
To the inn for a drink, of course. Where else could I even go in this god's forsaken town?
And what? You think that will solve all your problems?
Probably not, but it's worth a try.
I love that everyone is moving, doing something, going somewhere. No one's just standing around like a robot. That's artificial intelligence limit doing its thing. One thing I want to add is the changed quest line for the College of Winterhold's entry. Oh. I don't think I've ever noticed this. It's kind of cool. I like how even the ivy has snow covered on it. The Ritten's affecting the College of Winterhold. I don't believe I have a College of Winterhold overhaul, like I was using JK's in one of my previous load orders. But I had to drop that in order to get Ritten's into my load order. And overall, the texture overhaul for College of Winterhold looks really nice. But I would like to put something in there. I might end up putting Magical College of Winterhold as opposed to JK's College of Winterhold, just to save on the space. It would end up saving me like 12 megabytes while still sprucing up the interior of the college. So I might go that route. Yeah, everything checks out here. Now, let's go... Let's go to Markarth. Actually, let's go to Falkreath. So Nature of the Wildlands can definitely be a little bit heavier on performance. I honestly have no idea how this load order will run on base PS5. It shouldn't be bad. Save for the typical locations like Windhelm and maybe outside of Whiterun, but in general it should be pretty stable on base PS5. So Falkreath is where I think Nature of the Wildlands really shines. I mean, as far as tree mods go, I mean, they're a dime a dozen. There's tons of them. They all make some kind of improvement over the vanilla trees in some way. But none of them create this real believable forest like Nature of the Wildlands. Like, this looks like a real forest. The trees are believable. There's nothing about any of the trees that jumps out to me and says, you know, somebody made this. They look so realistic. Noticing small stutters here and there, but overall not bad for Falkreath. Got our Origins of Forest, kind of adding to the density here. I think these are the Emperata fences. And you wouldn't even know. They blend in so good with Ritten's. These are definitely them. I mean, you can't tell at all that those are from a different mod. So we've got city trees active here. As I'm walking through here, I'm just looking for any trees that might be clipping through buildings or something like that. So far, it's looking pretty good with JKs. Such a nice little effect. Like it's a small detail, but those details matter. The lantern kind of blowing in the wind there with the rain and the storm. Such a nice effect. Even this one. So these buildings get the nature stone walls from our tomatoes. I think this would definitely be like a different type of stone if we had gotten rid of that and just ran our writtens. But these affect more stone walls than just these buildings. So I kind of like it in the other locations, and I really don't mind it here, but I am slightly curious if the written's textures would get picked up in other locations as well, that aren't related to buildings. Overall, really pleased with this. Love this little overgrowth through here. This is one area I really don't mind overgrowth, as long as it's not out here in the road. I'm kind of cool with it. So this is also getting our tomatoes nature stone walls as well. So is this. So like this would be an actual stone wall put together with like mortar and stuff. I'm kind of curious how they would change though. Yeah, beautiful. I'm happy with it. Where do I want to go next? See what's going on at Dawn Star. So we've got our written textures here. Nice little snow path throughout the town. Really like that with simplest roads.
Divine sake, Skull. Who do you think we're threatening with our old war wounds? We're not soldiers anymore.
No man Horik is wearing his old Legion armor.
You'll shut your mouth and get back to work.
Proud of his service, or the Legion taught him loyal.
Hear me?
And Beard loyal to Johnson.
I don't know if you can see it, but a little bit of snow gathering on top of that lamp post and that lantern. I really like that. Looks good. Let's go check out our hot springs camp. Yeah, there's kind of like a smoky haze rising from the water from our one mod that touches these little hot springs. I really like that. Digging this bridge. Looks like it's picking up textures from Rittens also, which is really cool. The Imperial Stone. This is probably added by Raidho. They add a lot of little things like this. Whoa. Alright, I want to check out Markarth because this is one area where I didn't include a mod to overhaul. So the Dwemer ruins, which I think there's only like 12 of them, and Markarth do not have a texture overhaul. But I want to see just how bad or not it is. So we got some blending issues here. Wonder if it's just that location, or I've got it here as well. It seems that this issue only occurs in areas where JK's is, because as we go through here, I'm already noticing, and I'm sure we'll continue to notice, that the blending is not a problem. Even here, where there's two obvious differences in landscape textures, there's no terrible seam issues here. So I believe that's just something, something's going on there between JK's and simplest roads. I'm sure JK's changes or moves road textures around, or potentially adds new ones over vanilla to make changes that reflect the different building positions and things like that. I think that's what's happening there. If it's just this one location, I could potentially overlook it. And it's not super terrible, but I would prefer not to have it there at all. I don't know how much, I can't really fix that. It's not going to be a load order issue. That's just those two mods kind of conflicting a little bit there. I actually don't totally hate the vanilla textures here. I think because there's so much detail in them that it kind of makes up for the lack of having a texture overhaul mod. And since we're using 512 textures on Writtens anyway, it doesn't appear to be a massive downgrade.
Lovely on my system. I'm getting out of here.
Victory is yours. I submit.
What happened?
We've still got City of Stone. And JK's really does a nice job overhauling this place. I really don't mind this. I think I can live with this. I mean, it's just this one town and 12 Dwemer runes. So these textures are going to be quite rare, but otherwise, all of our other towns and cities have been overhauled. So I think the benefit of saving almost 50 to 60 megabytes is good there. I'm curious how the road textures are holding up over here. in the rift. Alright. Beautiful colors. I like that they're not all that super saturated bright yellow. I like that I can see green in there, I can see orange, I see the yellow, different shades of yellow as well. I'm not noticing any of those issues that we just saw in the Reach, so that's good. This is what I was talking about earlier about the nature stone walls. I think they look really, really nice in like a location like this. But I am curious to see if I got rid of that, if this would turn to a written stone wall texture. I would imagine so. Where are the guards? There's usually a guard here that lets you in. Where the hell is it? Oh, there they are.
Hold there. Before I let you into Riften, you need to pay the visitor's tax. For the privilege of entering the... Call it what you want. It's been a pleasure doing business with you. Let me open the gate, and you can head into the city.
I had another run-in with a Thief's Guild.
I don't know you. You and Riften. You can pretend not to hear me all you want, but you better stay out of Blackbriar's business.
Jail. Worse.
They represent the reason I'm
When you borrowed the money, you said you'd pay it back on time.
Live for thousands of years. See into other people's stock.
Next time, keep your friends quiet, and nothing will happen to you.
This is that one pesky tree I was telling you about. I didn't even notice it.
Look, Shad, the last warning. Pay up.
But I'll have to add the enable disable object spell for little instances like this, but this should be a very easy one to remove. But that's been a thing. I've known about that tree. But if it's just that one tree, I can live with it. If we can easily disable it, then I'm fine with doing that. All these other trees seem to be just fine.
Genuine Falmer blood elixir for sale.
Live for thousands of years, see into other people's thoughts.
Rare trinkets and the finest oddities from Morrowind.
See, he had the lowered hood on. That's pretty cool. Just curious. I kind of like that. There's no really bad clipping or anything. It kind of looks cool. Very so cool. I think I'm gonna leave it on. Alright, let's check out Windhelm. This is always a performance heavy area. I don't imagine it'll be any different this time around. I'm sure we'll get like 50 frames here.
You come here where you're not wanted. You eat our food, you pollute our city with your stink, and you refuse to help the Stormcloak.
Take him aside because it's not our fight.
It's actually not bad. It's actually this is actually really good. I want to say because last time I was here testing this location, we had Azurite mists. But right now, without Azurite mists, with just NAT and Writtens, this is doing really well. That
A few
texture's not really
septims
that
for
great,
my
but-
supper is all I ask.
Definitely, when you turn your screen to look at certain things, it's a little heavier. This lantern is always an issue here. This is because we're not using JK's Skyrim. If we were, this lantern would be here, but we are using the JK's Skyrim Lanterns of Skyrim patch, so that's why we still get that little floating asset there. But version 2 of JK's Skyrim not only fixes the gray face bug with the JK added NPCs, but what's going on there? There must be no I don't even know what this texture is, but there's clearly not a sound for it. What is this texture? It doesn't even match with this. I wonder what that's coming from. spaghettis, maybe? Spaghettis and Rittens are the only two things I have touching these areas, and this is obviously a Ritten's texture. So I don't know, I'm almost positive Ritten's wouldn't add that. I could be wrong though. What I may do is add, oh, I actually don't have the space for it. Never mind. I was going to say I may add Icy Windhelm to this, just to sort of kind of snow over some of these textures here, but now that I think about it, number one, we don't have the space for that, and number two, it would probably not help our FPS. Although pretty stable, I'm really pleased with the FPS here right now. It's not perfect, but better than it usually is. You know what? Let's go check out Castle Volkihar, because last time I did a video we had an issue here, and I believe I've solved it. So what I realized was this little castle here, this little tower to my right, which is added by medieval castles, was clipping with a gate that is added here by JK's other locations. So I've taken JK's other locations out, which is almost, I think it's like 15 or 20 megabytes, but it only alters like 4 or 5 locations, so it's kind of a huge commitment for locations that are kind of niche. You may or may not visit in a playthrough. Like if you don't play a vampire, you may or may not visit this place in your playthrough. And obviously opting instead for the nice little updates that Medieval Castles gives us. So that is fixed. Those realistic clouds, northern realistic clouds, looking really nice there. Goes really, really well with our nat weather. Just appreciating that terrain LOD mod. Everything seems to blend and just be a little bit more visually cohesive. Watch that out in the distance over there if you want to see sort of how the LOD terrain works. You'll notice as I get closer. You see it just changed right there. But it's so close to the base landscape textures that you wouldn't even know it if I didn't point it out. Back all the way up here. There it changes again. Keep your eye on that little spot there where my cursor is. I don't know if they think we're too low to notice it, but anyways, it was so close that if you'd blinked, you wouldn't even know.
What was that?
Good lord. Alright, let's check out Morthal. What's going on there? First time I've ever seen that using this. There it goes. Just a weird load. Now, what is going on here?
What's the Jarl going to do about it?
How are we supposed to feel safe in our own homes?
Please, enough already.
I have told Ygritte of your concerns. She'll look after you all. Please, go about your business.
We've no need for wizards in our midst.
Morthal has enough problems as it is.
It's no use. Let's get back to it then.
I did attempt to put cities in the north in this load order, but I wasn't really sold on it. Didn't change as many areas as I would like it to change for the sheer amount of space that it takes up. I say this all the time, but I love these tomato ice textures. For the 40 or 50 megabytes that Cities of the North takes up, it only changes like 4 locations. So just wasn't really worth it. And then if you want to patch it in with JKs and the great cities, the minor cities, it's just it becomes a behemoth. You've got JKs, which is like 3 or 4 megabytes. You've got Cities of the North, which is like 45 megabytes. You've got the great city of Winterhold, which alone is like 40 or 50 megabytes. Then you've got the minor cities, which is like 8 or 9 megabytes, and then all the patches. I mean, when it's all said and done, it's just too much. I like this. I think this approach is a lot more realistic with that we're taking with JKs and writtens, as well as spaghettis for those little towns and villages that JKs doesn't alter. But yeah, Morthal is looking good. Curious to see how the nighttime looks here.
Make it quick.
It looks excellent. Alright, well, I think we're gonna wrap this up here shortly. I think we've gone to pretty much every important location. Although I am curious to see, I mean, we never did go to Iverstead, I guess we could go there. And then I am curious to see how the LOD looks from High Hrothgar. We've got city trees in effect here, so once again I'm just looking around for any trees that are clipping through buildings or something. Really not too many buildings here for them to clip with. think we are also using Spaghetti's Iverstead, so a lot less of a chance for clipping than if we were using, say,
on your way up the 7,000 steps again, Clement?
JK's.
Not today. I'm just not ready to make the climb to High Hrothgar. The path isn't safe.
Aren't the Greybeards expecting some surprise?
Man, what a sunrise.
Honestly,
Okay.
I'm not certain. I've yet to be allowed into the monastery. Perhaps one day.
No issues that I can see. Except for maybe that, but that's not the end of the world. A little clipping issue there, but nothing major, nothing going through buildings or anything like that. Alright, let's quick go look at Rogstad, and then we will double back to, actually, did we look at Dragon Bridge? I don't think we did. So we'll go there quick, we'll check out this quick, we'll go to Dragon's Bridge, and then we'll go to High Hrothgar, and then that'll be it. But so far everything's doing pretty good, everything's pretty stable. Little bit of funniness sometimes with Elden Beast, but generally it looks good and I like the changes that it makes. Even just like the responsiveness and the character movement I really like. Even just watching them move side by side, it's so smooth. Overall, road textures are looking pretty good. Not too many seams. A little tiny bit of a seam there, but it's not a harsh one. It looks like it's just like an angle where this hill starts to merge with the road. It's not like a terrible jaggedy mess. So I can live with that. Rogstad's looking good. We've got city trees active here, so once again just looking for clipping, but I don't think there's much clipping to be had here, to be honest. Everything looks to be in order. There is one tree here clipping, but this one is likely very easily removable with the spell. Alright, let's go to Dragon Ridge. So there's one specific location here that I tend to get a bit of overgrowth. It's not the end of the world. But it is something to be aware of. We don't actually have a city tree mod for this location because we were getting some pretty bad clipping. So you don't have to worry about there being any clipping of that nature here. But this is the one little patch I was telling you about. When you're using Origins of Forest, this is going to be overgrown. This is the only location, to my knowledge, that is like this. And the reason being is because normally grass does grow here on this road. Since Origins of Forest is a grass mod, it's fighting with Veda's Brom for these cells here. So that being said, it's pulling through. Normally this would be shorter Veda's Brom grass. Or, I mean, in vanilla, this would be very short vanilla grass. Vanilla was not built for this lush, dense grass. So, when this replaces that vanilla grass with Origins of Forest, which is obviously a much, much denser mod, this is what you get. So, without spending 15 or more megabytes of data to download landscape fixes plus the road grass fix, this is going to have to just be a one little patch that you have to live with. The reason why this wasn't an issue in our previous load orders because we were using Northern Roads, and Northern Roads obviously overwrites all of these road meshes and textures, so this was never an issue for us. But if you're willing to overlook this little detail here, I think Origins of Forest is still worthwhile keeping in our load order. So I personally think I am going to overlook it and keep it. But aside from that, everything else is in order here in Dragon's Bridge. There is actually, take it back, there is one bridge over here that always clips with JKs. There is no workaround for this. If you use JKs, you are going to get this. I think maybe it's an oversight on perhaps the porter. Maybe, I don't know why this happens here. But there's no way to get rid of this without getting rid of JKs, and I'm not willing to do that. So just know Dragon's Bridge is a little funny, but about 95% of everything else is working just as intended.
I trust you're not planning any trouble. What can I do?
Now we're gonna go to High Rothgar. looking really good. That improved terrain noise makes a huge difference. Normally you would see all kinds of like tiling and patterns in the terrain through here, especially down there in the tundra, but it's really not bad here. Not bad at all. And I mean, we're at high Rothgar. We are super high up here, and we're still seeing those LOD trees. The nature of the wildlands. Very, very nice. Alright, so I think we'll, let's actually just go back to Helgen quick. All the more reason to like play and get your levels up, and because combat is going to be grueling. But no, Helgen was looking pretty nice. It's taken on those Imperial Britons textures, which I suspected, but it looks really good. The one thing that I am kind of low-key very pleased about is that throughout this entire test, this entire demo, I haven't seen any NPCs doing weird stuff like standing around not doing anything. That artificial intelligence limit increaser is a godsend. This guy, as I say that, there's like, oh, okay, there it goes. Really is such a godsend, that mod. So, overall though, I'm really pleased. I think Nature of the Wildlands is gonna stay. Even though it's absolutely massive in size, it just goes such a long way in making these forests feel more believable, just more realistic, gives the at basically all of the locations so much more depth. Written's definitely going to stay despite its size. We could, if we wanted to, add some more mods in here, probably get rid of Written's, but I think Written's touches so many different parts of the world that it's worth keeping. NAT, I think excellent, no issues like I was having, or like I was mentioning earlier with the combination of Azurite weathers and Mythical Ages for AW3. Don't get me wrong, that is a great combination when it's great, but when you gotta really tweak the night times and stuff, certain weather patterns in order to get that just right. This out of the box is basically perfect. Really no issues with the flora, or at least the lack of a flora retexture. I mean, outside of Zveta's Brown regions, we're not using Valor AIO, we're not using Mary's Flora, we're not using Dr. Jacopo's 3D Plants Pack, and overall I didn't find myself minding too much, so I think we're going to be just fine without that. If we ever find some space for those, though I doubt that'll happen, I maybe would like to put in Valar AIO or something, but for the file sizes, I don't know, maybe it's not worth it. One thing I do want to fix is the all dogs are huskies. I assumed that would have meant just dogs, but it actually seems to be affecting the wolves as well, so I need to see if I can sort that out. If not, it's not the end of the world. I still think it's a very big upgrade over vanilla. Oh,
yes.
This guy. I think he's just confused from maybe the nav meshing for the JKs. What else did I really like here? Love the sound reworks. Even the grunts, like, just a nice change of pace. Love the weightiness, love the feel of the, of Elden Beast. Really digging, Nordwar UA. The new shields, the new armors. I think once I get into playing and start leveling up my character and building my character out, I'm gonna really like the improved bandits mod and just how challenging the combat can be with that. It's definitely a good change of pace over vanilla Skyrim, where you're kind of just smacking everyone around. Simplest roads, for the most part, very good. My experience with this mod previously has been a lot worse seams than I'm experiencing here. We had really just that one issue outside of Markarth, and that was it. But none of these road mods are perfect. You're going to run into issues, whether you're using blended roads, whether you're using simplest roads, or whether you're using northern roads. So overall, I'm pleased with it. A little animation there, a little idle animation there. The water, the 512 on the water is doing pretty good. Happy with that. Nice to have the extra weapon variations from the reforging to the masses mod. The lowered hoods, for what it's worth, is a nice little touch. What else? I mean, I think really the biggest change over my previous load orders, I mean, besides everything I just mentioned, is nature of the wildlands. Just how much of a big difference it actually makes on the game. It's nice to see all those little idle animations with your character from Elden Beast. Wildcat, the combat with Wildcat feels nice. The new dynamic camera settings I think lends really well to our new combat and gameplay setup. So, yeah. I'm pleased. Big upgrade. I don't know when this will be out fully, when I'm going to release the full load order, but I mean, in the beginning of the video I did show you the experimental load order, so if you really wanted to try to create this, you could model it after what you saw in the video. But I think I'm going to do a little bit more testing and see how everything feels as I continue to play it before I do an official release. So that's the plan anyway. But appreciate you guys for watching and enjoy. Take care.